Hello, friends. I have some information for you, but I wanted to show you this. Does anybody know what this is? I've never seen it before, and I found it for 50 cents at a secondhand store. I'll tell you at the end if I remember. I'll tell you now. It's a Little People hook from one of the Little People. Isn't that cute? You can go as Little People for Halloween. Anyway, it's just not here nor there. I haven't talked to you in a long time. I've been doing not personal videos. I've just been doing thing videos lately because my life has been really crazy. But what I want to share with you on this video today is methane gas poisoning. And so if you watch my parasite videos, I'm going to do an update on that on a different video. But I wanted to share with you today this situation that I find myself in. So about 5 years ago, I had a new furnace put in, and I had some people come and test the weatherization on my home. Like they tested how tight my home was and any leaks, and they sealed it up. My house was really airtight anyway. And they said that they had never seen, it was people from state out of town from where I live, and they said that they'd never seen such a airtight house before. And I thought that was a good thing because less expenses to heat and keep it cool. And for the most part, I think it was a good thing. However, when they put in the new furnace, so my furnace had a crack in it, and they put a new furnace in, and the new furnace has water that gets produced in the reconcentration of the burning, and the old furnace did not. So where they put the furnace in my home is in the center of my basement, and that situation caused, there's no drainage there, so that caused them to not know how to drain the water byproduct of the furnace. So they talked about several things and decided to run it up through the piping into the attic, and then run it through the attic and into the sewer vent. Now, I've never owned a home other than this one. I don't know anything about it. So I let them do their thing, thinking they would know what they were doing. However, the lead guy for this area that was doing it, it was his first home. I was the first home that he'd just gotten the job. So he was going on some recommendations from other people. So they put the furnace in, and it didn't burn as hot as my other one, so it took twice as long to heat up. So I was kind of frustrated with that, but you know, it's a new furnace. So I was hoping it would be less it would be more better cost for me in the long run. But I had some problems because they had to put a pump in there that would get water in it, but it wouldn't drain the water until it was full. So if it ran and then it wasn't cold for a few days, it would start to grow mold. So several times I would smell mold in the house, and I would go clean it out. And I was very frustrated that there was no other way to do this. So I contacted them. They came back, and they said they really didn't know how to vent it any other way, other than me drilling a new foundation through the foundation to put a drain. So I already had problems with the furnace. Then winter comes, and my furnace stops working. And I think it's broken. It's a brand new furnace, and it's freezing in the house. And then during the day, it would warm up and work fine. And then at night, it wouldn't work. So I contact the people. They come back, and they find out that where it's draining in the vent through the attic, it was actually freezing in the attic as it ran through the attic when it was cold outside. So, and I had more insulation put in my attic. So this time what they decided to do is they ran the insulation, the vent drainage tubing, through the insulation in the attic. So it went through the attic insulation, but where it was coming out into the pipe was then freezing. So it was staying unfrozen in the attic. Okay. I had somebody come and look in the attic for another reason, as I had a new roof put on, I was having some issues. So he uncovered the pipe, the tubing, froze again. So on and off, I'm having this problem. So what I learned to do was to put a 5-gallon bucket, have it drain in the 5-gallon bucket, and then I would just dump the bucket or make the pump go on in the daytime when it was warmer. And then at night, I would just put it in the big bucket and let it run so that it wouldn't stop running overnight. But that means you have to babysit it. So I call him again because it just kept having this freezing problem. So they put some foam, like a sponge type of foam, around the vent where it came out. Now, I never got on the roof. It was snowy outside. I didn't know what they were doing. I've never dealt with sewage vents. I didn't know what was going on there. So it was still freezing. So I suggested, to capture the warmth coming up from the sewer, people showering or whatever, to put a hose on it. I have no idea what the vent is for. In my head, it's just, I don't know. I never dealt with it. I didn't look it up. I just assumed they knew what they were doing. So they put this on the vent, the drainage tubing, put this on it, and then what was actually this other side? So this hung down into the sewer vent, and I'm grossed out because my hands are touching this. So then they wrapped that tube with this insulation stuff, and they had put this on the inside in the attic where it was coming up out of the insulation into the vent. So this foam stuff was around the tubing as it came out into the vent, but it was attached to this. So this was pushed on to that, and then this was inserted around it to keep it warm in the nighttime so my furnace would work. So that worked for most of the winter except for the coldest couple of weeks in January. And I just learned to deal with the dumping of the furnace with the big 5-gallon bucket. So that's how it went. So meantime, I'm still having some molding issues. And I'll probably talk about that on a different video. But just know, if I don't do another video on that, how I stopped the molding was copper piping. I just put copper tubing in the plastic bucket, and the copper acts as an antibacterial and kept the mold from growing. But there's another story with that I'll share in a different video. Anyway, so this furnace has been lots of issues. Okay, so I don't know anything about venting. I think it's taken care of for the most part. Over the last few years, I'm tired all the time. I can't think clearly until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm very sluggish, foggy brained, headaches regularly, confused, can't think clearly, heart palpitations, dizziness. I have several blogs on how dizzy I've been. I've actually fallen a few times because I was dizzy. So I've had these symptoms that I've attributed to this parasite that I have, and I'm not saying that these aren't symptoms of the parasite, because I know some of them are. But this was also in the house going on. So recently, my dad had some health problems, and I went to stay with him, and they were serious health problems. And I went to stay with him for the better part of a month and a half, 2 months. So I would come home for a weekend, do what I needed to at my house, and then travel to his home and stay there for a week, help him out, help his wife out, take care of his health issues, and then come back every couple of weeks, stay here for a weekend. So before that happened, I would hear gurgling, bubbling, like blah, blah, in the toilet in the basement. Now, I don't use the basement very often because I'm home alone, and I have bathrooms upstairs, so I don't need to use those ones. But I could hear, especially at night after I would do like laundry or the load of dishes or something, I would hear glug, glug, glug glug in the toilet in the basement. So I went to a plumbing supply place and I spoke to the plumbing guy there, and I told him I was hearing this gurgling and I thought that I needed to replace a gasket on my toilet or something in the flushing system, because when I would go down there, the level of the water in the toilet would be low. It would be like less than it should be. And I'd not had that problem. I've lived here 20 years and I've never had that problem except for the last couple of years. So hearing this glug, 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 I went to him and he said, if you're hearing that glug, 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 it is not a gasket on the toilet. It is that your sewage vent is blocked. And I'm like, my sewage vent is blocked. And I'm thinking back to the furnace issue. And so I said, well, is that a problem? And he says, well, it's because it's blocked, the methane gas is then bubbling up in your toilet, causing the level to kind of evaporate quicker with the burbling, gurgling of it. And you are having methane gas escape into the home. And I said, well, is that a problem? Do I need to do something? I don't know, because I thought if I take out the tubing, then I'm going to have a problem with, but I couldn't imagine it would block the whole tube. So I'm thinking I either have no furnace or I have methane escaping into the house. But I'm like, you know what? It's in the basement. I'm never down there. Nobody's down there. A couple times a year, people are down there. I'm not going to worry about it. But then again, I was stressing about things, and it might have even been when I was home one weekend or something. It was right around the same time all of this happened. So I just kind of stuck that in the back of my head, went and did the other things on my list that I needed to get done. And so I'm up at my father's a lot, coming home, going to my dad's, coming home. When I would come home, I'd have the headaches again. Now, I get migraines, sinus migraines, usually when there's a storm. I would maybe get 10 a year. And over the last few years, I have headaches several times a week, regularly. And I am very tired all the time and lethargic. I'm very dehydrated, like snakeskin dehydrated. And that can be attributed to thyroid. But when I was at my dad's house, I wasn't that dehydrated. So when I came back and I was waking up every night with a headache all night long, I'm kind of in pain, trying to sleep it off. I'm groggy and I'm never getting enough sleep. Yet at my father's, I'd get up about between 8 and 10 in the morning, and I'd stay up till 1 or 2 in the night, which is what I've done my whole life. I've always been a very energetic person until the last few years, where I gained a lot of weight. I'm tired all the time. I'm just confused. And anyway, so I find that when I'm home, I don't feel good. I'm sleeping half the day. I'm not sleeping well at night. I'm having more headaches. It takes me a long time in the morning to remember what I wanted to get done. At my dad's, I would have this list in my head. I'd get up and I'd do the list. At home, if I don't make a note and stick it right in front of where I'm going to be, I don't remember. And then it's 5 o'clock and I'm like, oh, shoot, I was supposed to call this person and go to the bank. And so I just wasn't thinking really clearly. But it's been like that for years. So I'm just attributing it to these other things that are happening. So I also noticed when I got home, I was having a lot. I'll have heart palpitations sometimes if I exert really hard or something, or have a lot of caffeine. But for the most part, I don't have them. When I got back from my dad's, I was having a lot of heart palpitations while I was sleeping. And I was waking up and having weird palpitations. I'm like, this is so weird. What is going on with me? And then going back to my dad's, I'd feel energetic. I'd be great. And I remembered back to last year, I had a week or two in the summer where I was doing great. I felt good. I had energy. I put in 7 fence posts. I fixed my garage frame. I had a yard sale for a few days. I felt great. I was outside all the time, and I thought, you know what? What is the difference? I was outside those days. I was hardly inside at all. I had the swamp cooler blowing through the house. The windows were open. It was ventilated. When I came home from my dad's, the house had been completely closed up. There hadn't been any ventilation on for a month and a half. So I came home from my dad's, and I was speaking in my church. I was giving an update on my missionary daughter. And I printed out the talk that I was going to share in the congregation, and I got up to the pulpit and I couldn't read the talk that I had printed out. Like my eyes weren't working. I could not read it. Somebody in the audience actually gave me a pair of glasses to read my own talk. And I thought, this is so weird. Like I don't need glasses. I've not had glasses except when I was pregnant a little bit, and my eyes would change a little bit with pregnancy, but I never have had regular glasses. I've used them for reading just for a little short amount of time. And so I'm like, why are my eyes so bad being home? I had gotten home the night before, slept here at my home, and then gone to this. And I'm like, what is going on with me? It seemed, and so finally, after this last visit to my dad's a couple weeks back, I was like, it's only when I'm home. Like I feel good if I'm not sleeping at my own house. I'm like, what is the problem? And then in my head came back that little click, click, because I heard the gurgling in the basement toilet. And I went, I wonder what the symptoms of methane gas poisoning are. So I Google searched methane gas poisoning, and these are the symptoms. The first sign is a headaches. Next, these are not necessarily in order, but they mention that the first one is often a headache. Heart palpitations, cognitive memory loss, poor judgment and inattentiveness, dizziness. Now, last summer, 2 summers ago, I was super, super, super dizzy. Well, it was just before summer started, and I've fought with that on and off, depending on when. I mean, I don't know what was causing. I think it was part of it was possibly the parasites, but I have been fighting the dizziness, and I've never had that in my life before the last few years. Fogginess, difficulty breathing, which I have from the parasite anyway, but I didn't have as many problems when I was not at my own house. Dehydration, which is interesting because your body is pumping more fluid through the system, trying to get more oxygen, because the methane gas you're breathing in the methane gas, you get less oxygen concentration. So your body has to pump harder to get more oxygen to the cells. So it evaporates the moisture in your system and you become dehydrated. And I showed you before, look at that. And I was not like this at my dad's. I was actually doing really well. My legs I noticed since I got back from my dad's in the last week, I look like a snake and they're just flaky white. And I thought, what is going on? This is crazy. So dehydration is one of the symptoms. Nausea and vomiting, which is weird because sometimes I'll just have a wave of nausea come over me, especially since I was home when I was home. Blurry vision, which I was gone for a couple weeks, come home, sleep overnight, and then I couldn't read the talk that I had printed in the normal font that I normally read. So the ways that you can have methane poisoning are kind of weird. So the most common is a blocked sewage vent. And you can also get it from being around mulch. If you build a house on a landfill or close to a landfill, potting soil in bags that's mulching can create it. If there's some in the soil and a kid eats the soil, you can get it from that. But the most common is the sewage issue. If you live near a sewage treatment plant also. But anyway, so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I have methane gas poisoning and it's built up in my airtight home. And then I come home and I'm sleeping in the bedroom with the door closed right above that bathroom. And I'm thinking this is what my problem is. So I opened the windows and I put on my swamp cooler and I sleep with the ceiling fan on, and I've been closing my bedroom doors. And I climbed up on the roof and I looked down. I pulled out that sewage, the line, to keep the heat in so that the line wouldn't freeze. I pulled that out and then looked down in the tubing and I could see kind of that yellow spongy foam stuff. So I think he put some of that on there and it fell off and and it got stuck on a seam going down straight, because I thought it actually turned at that point. It was about the height of my roof in my basement, maybe. And so I talked to a couple of plumbers to see how I could get that foam out of there. And somebody suggested an electrical snake kind of a thing that has a hook on it that you can pull wires through conduit, like up into the attic when you're wiring a house. So I have a friend who has one of those. So I contacted him and had him bring it over. Well, he didn't look down the pipe before he stuck it down there. He just stuck the electrical snake down the pipe. And he said it went to a point and then it kind of was spongy and it bounced. So he pulled it back out. Then we looked down the hole and there was nothing there. Like I couldn't see anything. Well, he pulled it out and then he put it back in, sorry. And then I got on the roof and I looked down and we couldn't see anything in there. So because he felt it sponge, we're thinking it knocked it down into the sewer line. So I heard it gurgling that night, and then I ran a load of laundry, and I haven't heard it gurgle since then. So we're thinking it knocked it down into the sewer line, and my sewer hasn't backed up or anything. So we're thinking that the washing machine and showering and dishwasher and stuff has run it down into the sewer line, because it gets bigger at that point. And but also, I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but I haven't heard the gurgling like I was hearing it regularly before, like all through the day, and especially at night I would hear blub, 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 blub. So I have had so much more energy since that happened about, I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago. I started cleaning out my garage. I've worked 3 days in my garage. I've worked in my yard. I've been able to get more done during the day because I'm not so confused, if that makes any sense. Like I can think more clearly when I first get up, and I have had more energy. I'm still tired with, I'm sure, the parasite and things like that, but I really, and keeping the house vented, I really think that has been, that blockage in my sewer vent was causing some of my health problems. And so I wanted to share that with you because I never would have known. So I thought it would be good to put a video up about, and I didn't necessarily need to tell the whole story, but it makes you understand why it's been a couple of years. And as the blurbing got more intense is when I went and looked at it. And but I didn't know all those symptoms. I mean, even dehydration from gas poisoning, who would think? Like, I wouldn't have thought of that. So anyway, I wanted to share that, and I will do a blog post on it. And so you can check that out, thesecretisgratitude.com, and type in methane gas in the search box at the bottom of the homepage, and up will come the post about this. But hopefully none of you are having this as a problem, but and also it's crazy because it could have blown up the house. I mean, it was closed up for a month and a half for the most part, and if there had been an open flame or something, that is an extreme, but you know, it could happen. So, and it did happen at a school in Texas when I was doing my research. So yeah, just be aware. And I also have a friend whose furnace water heater was leaking natural gas into her basement, and she was having a lot of symptoms, health problems, and they realized that it was the natural gas escaping into the air. And it wasn't enough that she was smelling the rotten egg smell because it was in her basement, but she did have a lot of the symptoms of gas poisoning. So just be aware of what's going on in your environment, and if you're having any symptoms of these symptoms, I'll type them all in the search engine so you can hopefully find this. So if you're having any symptoms, I don't know how to have that tested, but now that I haven't been hearing the blurb and I've just been aware of it, will definitely, if there's a problem, get it checked out. But I think because it's been running fine and there's no blockage, I think it went down in the sewer. So anyway, there's that. So thanks for watching, and I hope you have a very blessed day. Feel free to ask me questions. thesecretisgratitude blog at gmail.com. Have a blessed day.